Australia, a land of sunshine and surf, also harbors dark secrets. In the annals of its criminal history, few names evoke as much fear and revulsion as Stewart John Regan, known as the Magician, and Dennis Bruce Allen, better known as Mr. Death. Their reign of terror, marked by violence, intimidation, and cold-blooded murder, left an indelible scar on the nation's psyche. This is their story. Regan and Allen were not your average criminals. They were master manipulators, orchestrating their vast criminal empire with a chilling blend of charisma and ruthlessness. Their influence extended far and wide, corrupting officials, silencing witnesses, and holding entire communities hostage in a grip of fear. Prepare yourself, for the tale you are about to delve into is not for the faint of heart. To understand the monsters Regan and Allen became, one must first delve into the shadows of their past. Stewart Regan's childhood was far from idyllic. Born into poverty and neglect in the back streets of Sydney, he quickly learned to fend for himself. Petty theft and street fights became his education, each transgression hardening him further. Dennis Allen, on the other hand, hailed from a family steeped in criminality. His father, a notorious underworld figure, initiated him into a life of crime early on. Violence was commonplace, and respect was earned through brutality. Allen thrived in this environment, his natural cunning honed by his father's tutelage. These formative years, marred by deprivation and exposure to violence, planted the seeds of their descent into darkness. The criminal underworld, much like any other hierarchy, has its ladder to climb. Regan, with his sharp intellect and talent for deception, earned the moniker the Magician for his ability to make problems disappear. He began orchestrating elaborate heists, each success bolstering his reputation and drawing more ambitious individuals to his side. Allen, meanwhile, cultivated a persona of pure terror. Mr. Death, as he came to be known, was as unpredictable as he was ruthless. His brutality was legendary, a terrifying cocktail of raw power and hair-trigger rage. Their paths, once parallel, soon intersected. Regan, recognizing the value of raw, untamed force, saw in Allen the perfect enforcer. Allen, in turn, saw in Regan the strategic mind needed to expand his own influence. Together, they formed a formidable alliance, a deadly partnership that would come to dominate Australia's criminal landscape. Their reign of terror had begun. Regan and Allen understood that true power stemmed not just from brute force, but from the insidious tendrils of fear that could bind a community in silence. They cultivated an intricate web of informants, corrupt officials, and terrified witnesses, ensuring their criminal enterprise thrived under a cloak of secrecy and dread. Regan, with his cunning and charm, excelled at manipulation. He could sniff out weakness and exploit it with laser precision, turning allies against each other, bribing officials, and silencing dissent with veiled threats and promises of violence. Allen, on the other hand, was an instrument of raw terror. His reputation preceded him, a chilling symphony of bone-crunching violence and whispered threats. Their reign relied on a climate of fear, where silence was golden and loyalty was bought with a mixture of favors and terror. They became the puppet masters, pulling the strings from the shadows. Blood on their hands, chilling tales from Australia's underworld. Their reign was not a bloodless coup. It was a crimson tide that stained the streets of Australia. Whispers of their brutality became chilling legends, passed from criminal to criminal, each tale more gruesome than the last. One such incident involved a rival gang member who dared to challenge their authority. He was found washed ashore, his body riddled with bullets, a chilling message pinned to his chest: "Don't mistake silence for weakness." Another tale spoke of a corrupt official who attempted to double-cross them. He disappeared without a trace, only to be found weeks later entombed in concrete, his lifeless eyes staring accusingly from the hardened gray. Their cruelty wasn't reserved solely for rivals and traitors. Even those within their inner circle lived in fear of their volatile tempers and ruthless ambition. These chilling anecdotes paint a terrifying picture of their reign, The magicians fall from grace, a grudge, a mistake, a downfall. Even the most carefully constructed facades can crumble. For Stewart the magician Regan, his downfall was not a result of police pressure or rival gangs, but a fatal combination of arrogance and a long-held grudge. A seemingly insignificant figure from his past, a man he had wronged in his early days of petty crime, resurfaced with a thirst for vengeance. This man, fueled by years of simmering resentment and a desire for retribution, managed to infiltrate Regan's inner circle, slowly gaining his trust. Regan, blinded by his own hubris, failed to see the danger lurking in his midst. He underestimated the power of a grudge, the lengths to which a man scorned would go to seek his revenge. The informant, armed with irrefutable evidence of Regan's crimes, turned his findings over to the authorities. Regan, caught completely off guard, was arrested and charged with a litany of offenses, his carefully constructed empire crumbling around him. Section 7. The Last Stand of Mr. Death, cornered, desperate, and defiant. The arrest of the magician sent shockwaves through the criminal underworld. For Dennis Mr. Death Allen, it was a significant blow, but not a fatal one. He knew the authorities would be coming for him next, and he vowed to go down fighting. He fortified his remaining strongholds, amassing weapons and loyal followers, preparing for a final, bloody showdown. The man who had built his reputation on instilling fear now found himself consumed by it. The specter of capture, of a life spent behind bars, gnawed at his sanity. He grew increasingly paranoid, seeing enemies in every shadow, trusting no one. His reign of terror, once cold and calculating, descended into desperate acts of violence. The inevitable siege came with the force of a storm. Heavily armed police units surrounded Allen's compound, the air thick with tension. A tense standoff ensued, punctuated by sporadic gunfire and the desperate pleas of negotiators. Allen, however, refused to surrender. He had lived by the sword, and he was prepared to die by it. Inside, police found Allen's body riddled with bullets, a grim tableau of his final defiant stand. Section 8. Justice served? The Reckoning and its Aftermath. With Regan behind bars and Allen 6 feet under, the city breathed a collective sigh of relief. The grip of fear that had held it captive for so long began to loosen. The trials that followed were nothing short of sensational. The prosecution, armed with mountains of evidence provided by Regan's former associate, presented a compelling case. Regan, stripped of his charisma and charm, appeared defeated, his carefully cultivated air of invincibility shattered. He was found guilty on multiple counts, including racketeering, extortion, and conspiracy to commit murder. He was sentenced to life imprisonment, his days of pulling strings from the shadows over. The city was left to grapple with the scars of their brutality, the lingering trauma of a community held hostage by fear. Section 9. Scars on Society, the Enduring Legacy of Terror. The legacy of Regan and Allen is a complex and troubling one. They left an indelible mark on Australian society, a stark reminder of the fragility of peace and the ever-present potential for evil to flourish. Their story served as a cautionary tale, a stark reminder that even in the most idyllic of settings, darkness can lurk beneath the surface. The fear they instilled lingered long after their demise. Their names became synonymous with a time of lawlessness and violence, a period many were eager to forget, but couldn't. The scars they left ran deep, impacting not just individuals but the very fabric of the community. Their story, while deeply disturbing, also served as a catalyst for change. Section 10. The Never-Ending Cycle, Reflections on Crime, Punishment, and Redemption. The saga of the magician and Mr. Death is a chilling reminder of the cyclical nature of crime and punishment. It begs the question, can we ever truly break free from the cycle of violence and retribution? Can we address the root causes of criminality? Or are we destined to forever grapple with its consequences? Regan and Allen, for all their brutality, were products of their environment. Their upbringings, shaped by poverty, neglect, and exposure to violence, set them on a path that seemed almost predetermined. Their story forces us to confront the uncomfortable truth that crime is often a symptom of deeper societal ills. The justice system, while necessary, often feels like a band-aid solution. We lock away the perpetrators, but do we ever truly address the underlying issues that lead to crime in the first place?